Tell us about, because I heard a little something,
What you hear?
I heard that we got somebody who be breaking records on the mic. Talk about that record real quick. What you out here breaking, Saffy?
So, oh God, a few months ago I broke the 60 record for indoor. There's no 100 in indoor track. And so that was like a really big deal. Like the last meet of indoor, we were at championships in like Washington.
Welcome back to another episode of Truth to Power. So today we're gonna have another one of those like laid back, down to earth conversations. But today my guest is extremely involved on campus. She has a lot of different opportunities going on for her. So today's guest on today's episode would be Saffy.
Hello.
So me and Saffy, we're gonna be discussing three things. And you gotta follow me. So we got Saffy, but we're gonna be talking about sociology, sports, because she run track, and her sorority, because she's a member of the Tau Tau chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated here at USF. So we're going to go ahead and get into this conversation. And yeah, let's hop right into it. Just talking about like how you doing in general.
I'm doing good. Definitely busy. Busy has been the word I've definitely would describe. Up like every day, honestly, but man, I've been blessed. Like all of the opportunities from sports, from academics, even like from our cohort. Like I still work with Professor Sears. Yeah. See her every week. But yeah, really busy. But honestly, like with work that I like and that interests me, that's like towards my field. So I can't complain. Yeah, I can't complain.
So I like that you said that it's like something that like you actually like. So I wonder how much that like incorporates or manifests itself with like how you balance it all. So like with all this stuff that like you like and you like really involved in, how do you get to like divvying up your time and like, okay, I'm gonna do this or I'm gonna make my week out like this certain way? How do you kind of like navigate that?
I think I just definitely go by like what is my priority of today or what's my priority of the week. And every week is different, but my priority is always gonna be academics. Like, mama did not send me to come around and play.
Right.
So academics is definitely going to be the goal. And I think it's really good that a lot of what I do outside of academics ends up connecting to it anyway. Like me working for Professor Sears, like that still works for my sociology background. So like, even though that's a job, it's still like, to me counts for academics because I'm still learning, learning under her. Yeah. Especially. But yeah, no, academics is definitely like the priority. Then it goes to athletics and, okay, how much time do I devote to outside of practice and like what limits have already been set for that, like rolling out, talking to my trainer, sports nutritionist, like making sure I'm doing everything I need to do to get right, to maintain, and small things come around like, like how do we best manage it for like this week? How do we best manage it for the next couple days? Yeah. Definitely that. My sorority is definitely a very big part of my schedule now, which makes me really happy because of all the work we do like in the community, community service, work on campus, participation in like events. Really, I love all of it. And so like it'll go, those are kind of like my priorities in like order. But yeah, like it doesn't feel like work.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah. I can't complain. It doesn't feel like work.
No, that's a good way to be living. So I'm glad to hear that you're doing good, and glad to hear that like that stuff that is actually positive in your life though is the stuff that's keeping you busy, because we know it's a completely different experience. When it's something that you don't like, that you would rather be doing anything else but doing, and it got all your time. Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that.
How are you?
How I'm doing? Ooh, we got our first reversal on the show. I'm doing pretty good. Like in terms of this half of the semester, I was taking like a 2-credit class. So like that 2-credit class was the first half of the semester though. So like now I'm on like the tail end of that, where like I got like that gap because I'm not taking that class no more. That's right. So I got a little bit more time. So you're seeing a little bit more content rolling out because I got my extra time. But like I've been good. I just really am like happy that it's like springtime. You get a little bit more daylight. I feel like a lot more activities are going to start going on, especially because like just where we live at, it's just that time of year where like people going outside. It's like you can get out of class and realistically be like, oh, I want to do something else with my day. So it's just like I'm really here for like the whole living aspect of the college experience too. Just having more events, getting outside. So I feel like that, like academic thick of it, at least for me, because like you still got midterms and stuff. But it's a big difference having midterms of like 4 classes and then like 3 classes. So so I'm chilling in terms of like that, and really just ready to like transition and go to like next year, you know. So like set my opportunities up and stuff, and things like that. So put in like all that front end work, and now I'm just kind of ready, you know, chill, finish this year off strong.
Okay, downshift. Yes,
definitely. But no, I appreciate that, because I just realized like literally nobody has kind of extended that back to me and asked like how you doing on the show. But like and I get it, because like, you know, you come, you want, you know, talk about what you want to talk about, and then, you know, go on with your day. But I do appreciate that, you know, extending the dialogue back. But I am doing good. So, but still, because this episode is about you though, talking about some sociology. Can we even get like some type of just small definition about it, and kind of just like frame the conversation from there?
So like sociology is basically, there's a few fields of thought for like what it can be, but I think the easiest way to describe it is like a combination of like biography and history. And this can be looked at, you know, through like any culture, any lens, any community. But I think for us, like as Americans living in American society, studying American material, like I think it's really important for us, like as a field, you know, to like know like what's going on right now, like what happened in the past, how history repeats itself, what are trends that we've kind of already seen, you know, like how are people portrayed, how are people defined by the government, things that are like important to our everyday lives that we don't always like think about until prompted, or depending on who you are, like you may have to think about it more often than, you know, other people do, which is a privilege in itself. But yeah, that's basically what Soch is, and I think it's super applicable to everyday life, and I think that's why like a lot of places are trying to take it away. Like, you know, Florida has been in the news a lot recently for them banning, you know, what they think is critical race theory and like certain books from our curriculum and things that like, you know, were part of the canon. So I mean, honestly, like I love Soch, and like I can say that I truly like love my major because of how broad it is and like how much it's applicable to everyday life in different fields. But you know, everybody doesn't feel that way, and that's okay. So
would you say that like kind of like how you've always personally felt about it now, is that kind of what got you into it or like sparked your interest? Or like how did you come to the conclusion, you know, like last year and be like, okay, I'm going to go study sociology? Like how did you get to that decision?
Honestly, like I really fell into it. I knew like being pre-med, I wanted like, I'm really interested in like relationships that doctors and like patients have, and like that dynamic and like how that can be improved. So I was like, okay, well, I want to study people. Like how can I best study people? And psychology wasn't really for me, because I was like, okay, like this makes sense for like the understanding the singular person, but I kind of wanted to understand how like people move together like in society, and like how, you know, like people like individually can benefit society, but like also like how society like benefits the individual like person, and the dynamics, like all the dynamics that like follow under that. And I was like, well, let me try Soch. Like this kind of seems like this could be cool, could be my thing. And I mean, ended up like loving it. Like I really before coming here, I had like no idea like what Soch was. It was just like, we can try it. If not, you know, like try something else. But you know, like let's roll with it. And it ended up like working out to be like a really good decision.
That's good. You know, I'm glad that you are liking what you're studying, because like I know that like a lot of people kind of get to like where we're at, like crossing this halfway point, and like they want to pivot or figure out if like they've been doing something that they don't necessarily like. So I'm glad to hear that like you've been liking it. And speaking about just like combining it with, you know, other past experiences, I know you're talking about like groups within like these different structured or individuals within these like different structured groups. And we had, you know, a great experience last year in the Marsha Riley Living Learning Community. For some context, it's like a 30 person it's a 30
we
person
had a time.
We did.
Let's
indeed
start there.
We did have a time.
We had a time.
But for some context, the Marsha Riley Living Learning Community is a 30 person cohort And you basically live and take a class with like the same people. You're all black identified students coming from like different parts of the country, different parts of the world, if applicable to like your cohort or whatever. But you basically just like are around all these different black people. You get all these different black perspectives. You also get the opportunity to like learn alongside them. And my question is kind of related to, and I guess to tie it in even more with some more context. So Professor Sears, who you work with, is a sociology
Professor Sears.
professor.
Thank you so much.
She's also the dean of her department.
Yes.
She's the dean now. I got to put some respect on Professor Sears.
Yeah.
But she taught us African American studies, black activists and visionaries. But I always felt like Professor Sears also taught it from a sociology perspective. So that was like an added benefit.
Talking about that, what's the soup?
Right.
The
Context of what's going on.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, in terms of like our actual like our 30-person cohort, what are some kind of like sociological, I guess, things that was going on during our own like group experience and things like that? If you've ever seen like the parallels.
I think a lot of our, like from a sociologist perspective, like a lot of like what we like talked about, some of our identities, like, you know, like, yes, we were all black in this cohort, but, you know, we could be like black and, you know, black is not a monolith. And we were truly like a collection of black people. You know, we had people in our cohort who were black and queer. We had people in our cohort who were black and Mexican. So like, what do those two identities look like? You know, what do the identities look like when, you know, black and low income, you know, different like sectors, you know, black and Christian, black and atheist.
We talked a lot about intersectionality, especially like, towards the end.
Yeah, like we really like, it's one thing to be like, oh yeah, like I was part of a cohort of like 30 black people, period. But no, like all 30 people have very different identities, like even from just like where we come from. Like some of us are from the city, some of us are, you know, like from suburbia, some of us are from the country, like for real. And like what, like taking up like how we've been socialized and conditioned to like think about certain things, even small things, you know, like on campus, off campus, how to get places. You know, some of us are like, okay, like let me take metro. There's no metro in SF. Okay, let's take the BART. You know, and some people are like, I'd rather drive. You know, I drive everywhere back home. There's no real public transport. Just like small things like that. Like we were all very different. And I think a lot of our experiences came together in a really beautiful way. I mean, not to say we didn't, you know, like butt heads occasionally, but it is what it is when you're living with, you know, 30 people. Yeah. Like
in class debates used to go a little crazy sometimes, but you know? I feel like that's necessary though.
Absolutely.
That's definitely, because like I feel like even in terms of like socialization, especially when you look at like black people, like it's very specific to your region to a certain extent. Like you definitely have your like your underlying like black culture for insert your city versus like everywhere else. So like I really feel like I got to like learn a lot of just like how much more of like that black and that exists out there. Like how you can really have those different like kind of converging intersections and things like that. But then also just like I was able to peep like our group development from like this our first year of college as well though, because like you in this space where it's like socializing and you know like forming these like identities and stuff. It's like it's a very like I would say not tumultuous but kind of like volatile thing. Like it can be up or it can be down just depending on your situation. Absolutely. And we kind of had like this structure built in. I always feel like our living learning community was like a sociology experiment. Absolutely. Just like, can we get these people to like sit together and like be friends? So like I feel like that's also another kind of like sociological thing I peeped from like just the structure of them like putting us all together. So I thought that was like a cool concept, and I really did think it was cool that like we were taught it explicitly from like a sociology professor, because then it kind of made everything else like click. I remember when I was like, oh, like of course they would have somebody who like of background is in sociology be the director of this social experiment that they got going on. Actually, and kind of going back into some social and more social like in your everyday life. So I'm thinking of like I know with like psych majors, like when they learning their content, they sometimes tend to like either subconsciously or consciously apply everything that they learning to like what's happening around them. like they would try to like psychoanalyze everybody and like see why they doing this thing. Have there been any times like on campus where you've used just like sociological concepts to kind of like navigate any situations, or like you find yourself like basically like in your notes for, not literally, but like in your notes for like sociology to kind of like break down stuff that's happening?
100%. And I think a lot of it really is like subconscious. A lot of it really is subconscious. And I think I most frequently use like my little sociological mindset, or like it's a little light bulb goes off in my head, like interacting with some of our international students, and like those who really don't understand American culture. And it doesn't have to be anything like big, and it's not necessarily always like, you know, like Black people related, but customs things like standing really close to people is not a big deal in other countries. Yeah,
kind of like norms, like kind of like unsaid, like smaller. Like
somebody
rules
could really run up on you and really not even mean it, like, or like, you know, like not saying excuse me, or like, you know, when you're like walking on one side of the street, some people really have like they don't understand, like for like America, like, you know, like, okay, like, you know, you walk on the right side, other people are, you know, walking on the left side, or even coming up the escalator, like things like that. But personal space has definitely become a big one where I'm like, how people talk to the workers in the cafeteria, that can be one thing. And even like working at the desk versus like, oh, hey, like, you know, I have a package, like, you know, I'd like to pick it up, like if like that's okay with you, versus I have a package or just mail. Yeah. So it's like some like norms, and it's not a big deal, but I mean, you can see it in class too, the way that some people like talk to their professors. It's like really small things, but really dynamics, like especially in particular like power dynamics. You can really see it, and it won't be like anything too big, but you might notice like it might rub you the wrong way, and it's like, is like what they're doing wrong, or like is it just like not our norm? Right. So then I'm like, like maybe that's a cultural thing, or like certain holidays and things like that. I think with USF having such a big international population, period, like, and it's not just like one country, like it's like a bunch of different countries. Yeah, like the different languages, like you hear, like even just like literally anywhere on campus, like in the UC, you could hear minimum of like 7 different languages. People talking back home because it's
the different time of days. Yeah,
at home it could be 9 p.m. like in like in the afternoon, like in the UC, like hearing people talk on the phone, different dialects, people's accents. I think it's interesting. A lot of people who go to USF are not from San Francisco. So like, you know, like you might hear a Texas accent, you know, you might hear a New York accent, like, you know, something like something in the way that somebody will talk will kind of be like, that's different, or I haven't heard that in a while, like that sounds like, you know, you may hear a reference, I think. So yeah, I feel like that's really the biggest part of like when my little sociological brain turns on.
Yeah, it sounds like it'll just give you like a good kind of like it's not like a active thing, but more so just like that reassurance that like, oh, this is just happening because X, Y, and Z. Basically, it seems like it just give you like a more complex understanding for the things that you may or may not have been even exposed to, but you can kind of just like pick up on because you have like a general basis of knowledge to pull from. Yep. So that's cool. I feel like as long as whatever you're learning has like some type of utility. And like it wasn't for naught, because like I feel like I get the most frustrated when like I look back on something that like I was like really locked in on. Like I was at my desk like fighting off the urges to get in that bed, and then I turn it in and go a few months down the road and I don't be using it. Yeah. That's got to be one of the most frustrating things. But like to actually have something that has like a real world application, I feel like those be like the best uses of not only time, but just like your mental capacity of like learning something too. You know?
Absolutely. And like one thing for me, I feel like sometimes sociology isn't as like mentally draining in the same way that like science, business, math, like some other classes are. And I like, for me, I think that's a relief between taking like half my classes are Soc, or specifically African American based, because I'm in African American studies, versus like my science classes. Like they're draining in different ways, and I think the balance is really good, at least for me. But I feel like everything I learn in Soc is relevant and is like most likely connected to everyday life, because like it's so like strongly rooted in history. And I feel like growing up, like I was always like, I was a history buff, but I was like, something is like missing from history. And like you can learn really different things about the same events depending on where you're from, depending on what your country like allows you to learn. Like forget America, like the censorship laws in other countries can be crazy depending on where you're coming from. And I think to like put everything together in a way that gives history like this type of warmth and this type of like
make it feel like alive
emotion, like it makes it feel alive. Like you know, everything that you're learning about like may not be nice and dandy, but like it gives like a sense of like humanity to it. And I think like that's really missing from like a lot of our education systems, and missing like especially from like that high school to college like pipeline. And I think it really humanizes like the field. And
talk a little bit about some track, you know.
Yes.
Some of your sports life. So how long have you been running track?
Oh my. I started running late. I started running in the 8th grade. My dad ran track in high school and college, and we run like the same events, very similar like body structure. I started running in the 8th grade. I ran for my middle school team. We had a team of like 9. I went to a small Christian school, and we won like our like conference championship. And I was like, oh my gosh, like we could like do this for real.
You was hyped up.
We were the underdogs, like for real. It was a true underdog story. And I was like, maybe like I could like do some of this for real. Like, I don't know, like let me get to like high school and figure it out. I went to a big high school, 1,300 kids, and a track team of like 60 people. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, like let me see, like, you know, I had a pretty good year, but you know, middle school versus high school is very different. Let me see like what'll happen. Like I'm ready for it. And then indoor season of my freshman year, I played field hockey in high school too. So that's like a fall sport, and then indoor is in the winter, then you have outdoor. So it's a 3-season athlete. And I got injured during a field hockey game, and I was out for my freshman year of indoor. And I was like, like, what if this is a sign? Like, maybe, like, I'm a one-hit wonder. Like, I don't know. Healed, got better. You know, decided, okay, like, let me run, like, freshman year. Like, let me see. And ended up, like, you know, coach vibed really well with my coach. And he was like, you know, like, you're a mediocre runner, but like, you know, like you have some, like, you have a lot of like talent, but like hard work. He was like, I believe that like with a few years of training, like you could get there. And I was like, well, what is there? Like, you know, like what is the goal? And he was like, honestly, like, I don't know. Like, you know, you're a really strong runner, and you're really like athletically really strong. He was like, I'm just excited to see like however like far like you push yourself. And I was like, okay, cool. So did that. I ran at Penn Relays my freshman year, and that's got to be like the highlight. Oh my goodness. It was a 3-day experience. Ran like beautiful track too. So many people come out for Penn Relays. Got to see a professional team for the first time in real life. USA men and women, they were there, like China, Jamaica, like it's a really big event, and to see all of them compete, I was like, this is it. Like, this is really it. Concluded the season really well. I was running the 100, 200, 4x1 and the 4x2. So I was pretty much maxed out at like every meet, but still good. Next year, I had a really good indoor season, really strong. Then we had COVID. Oof. Yeah, then we had COVID. So yeah, that kind of canceled everything. Mm-hmm. But honestly, like, I really took the time for COVID to like maintain. And that was the first time I had like run by myself for real. And that was such an interesting and weird experience as a sprinter to like maintain and go like longer distances because like tracks weren't open. Yeah. So I'd be running in my neighborhood. Very interesting experience. It was good overall. You know, I had some ups and had some downs, had some weird looks. You know, the whole concept of being a black runner is so threatening to people. Which,
right. What you running for?
Right. Like, why can't I run for exercise? You know, black people don't do that. What? Huh? No. Black people can do anything. Amen. Yeah. But one year, we were online. It was really weird, too. Oof, gosh.
I just thought about somebody running like on the Zoom call.
Literally, and I would run like during my lunch period, like on Zoom. Like, we still had our structured classes, so it would be like I would get out of class like 11:20, and it'd be like, okay, my next class starts at like 12:40. Like, let me get a workout in and come to class. Like, literally fresh out the shower, like still sweaty. Man,
that COVID schedule used to be something. I forgot about that almost.
Yes. But yeah, like I was like, you know, like I'm determined to get a workout in, you know, like whenever I could.
So how was your kind of like transition from like high school track to like the next higher level? You know, how was that transition?
It was interesting. So my senior year I tore my ACL and so literally I started running it like for the first time in the 8th grade. Freshman year, I didn't run in my indoor season. I ran an outdoor. I ran my indoor season of sophomore year. Didn't run outdoor because of COVID. COVID year kind of took most of my junior year season, and then senior year, I was like, all right, this is my year. I'm about to be here. Everybody finna know my name. Tear my ACL. It was, I mean, honestly, like, this journey can only be understood backwards, and like it is nothing but God. Nothing but God, because I barely had any times. I was trying to be recruited and they were like, you know, you can't be recruited off of hopes and dreams. And I was like, you know, like they're right, but like I feel like I could really do something. I really wanted to run. Applied to USF for the second round. I missed the first round application. Applied in like January of my senior year. Applied January, got in like March. Never been to SF before. Mama's from LA, so most of the summers were like SoCal. We didn't really head up north. And I was like, well, they gave me the most money. You know, they got, you know, some black people there.
Got a little sprinkle.
a little razzle-dazzle. And I had just got accepted into the cohort.
Okay.
I was like, I feel like God is lining everything up for me. Like, maybe I'm supposed to be there. The last thing I really needed was track. And I signed, like, July.
Nice.
Maybe.
Just like, made it.
4 weeks before we moved on to campus. And, like, literally didn't know anybody on the team for real. I mean, nothing but God. And, you know, like our coach really gave me a lot of like good foundational work because he knew like I was a pretty new runner. Like I had only had like really 3 real years of like being coached like in person. He was like, you know, like I still think we can really do something. Had a good freshman year. Sophomore year, pretty good.
What happened? Tell us about, because I heard of some, you know.
What you hear?
I heard that we got somebody who be breaking records on the mic. Talk about that record real quick. What you out here breaking, Saffy?
So, Oh God, a few months ago I broke the 60 record for indoor. There's no 100 in indoor track. And so that was like a really big deal. Like the last meet of indoor, we were at championships in like Washington. And I like ran, the race was literally, and I tell people this all the time, like I had no idea. Like I ran a pretty okay race, good time, ended up like PRing. I was like, yeah, I feel like I did okay. Call my mom. And then an hour later I was like, I think I just broke the school record for the 60 meters. And just so grateful. Like, again, from barely running from a torn ACL to literally starting in the 8th grade, torn ACL, bunch of injuries in the middle. Last minute. I was recruited the last minute, like, you know.
Great though.
I was like,
out here
wow,
breaking records,
like,
you know. I'm so proud.
Way. Thank you.
So proud, you know, to see you out here doing your thing, making your mark in the books for real. You know, leaving your name out here. So
yeah, most people don't know it yet. Over the weekend we broke the 4x1 record too. So I have 2 school records. All
right, man.
God has been good.
Amen.
God has been good. Like there is truly no other explanation, like, because anything I've done on my own, like it doesn't make sense. Like how could you get recruited D1 4 weeks before? Like our coach was like there was like barely footage of me running. He was like, I'll put your name on the roster. Like literally was just, I'll insert you in the system. Like after a Zoom meeting, like I had never been to SF before, like hadn't even come to campus. Like it wouldn't make sense without God.
Yeah.
It would make sense without God.
Nah, I'm glad to hear that, man. A great, you know, path. You know, I wish you more success. And I ain't even going to say luck because you don't need it, but more success, more motivation, you know, more hunger to get out there and keep breaking these records, keep making your mark on this school.
Yeah.
And, you know, keep smoking these people on this track, man.
I do my best. I do my best.
That's all you got to give for real. But transitioning to our third S.
Yes.
I'll talk about some of your sorority life, you know, some of your Greek life. So, just like in general, you know, like kind of, what made you even think about, you know, joining your sorority? Like, how'd you even get into that mind frame?
Oh my goodness. They had a Dr. Betty Shabazz program, which is for like middle school girls, and you'll learn everything in like that program. It's like a year long, from etiquette to science classes to different expos that we went to, different fairs. They were just pillars of the Black community, especially at home because it's mostly run by your county. So it was the same people I was going to church with, you know, people who lived down the street from me. It was a beautiful program just to show you like what it means to be a Black woman and how like Black excellence can start anywhere. Okay. And it can start from anything. It was such a beautiful program, and I was so gracious to be a part of it as a 6th grader. They took every grade, but like to be a 6th grader and to be like, oh my goodness, like this is what I want. Like this is really like what I want to exemplify in my life. Like the pillars of like sisterhood and service, like those I was like, okay, like service, like this is really like what I want, because I saw them giving back to the community, and I'm like, I would love to build these bonds in my community as well, like all of the community service between volunteering at homeless shelters and running events in the community, like all the voting events that they had, everything tied to our community. There was a community garden, just so many beautiful things, and I saw it at church like every Sunday. I was like, this is what I want to be. Like I want to be just like them, and to have my aunt and my family be a Delta. I mean, every corner I looked, there were Deltas, and there were Deltas doing great work in the community, like great work. I was like, this is what I want. Like I want a life of service. Like I think that I just love Black people. And I want my entire career to be dedicated towards helping more Black people, especially Black women, And with my field, like in medicine specifically, like, I'd like to be an OBGYN. Like, I just don't think there's anything more beautiful than Black life. And the whole process of creating Black life is so intricate and beautiful and so, like, precious to me. I was like, there's literally nothing else I want to do. Like, I want my whole life to be dedicated towards helping our people. Like, we've just been through so much. Like, so much. And at every turn, people are always trying to tear us down physically, mentally, on the job, in school, every arena. Like, I was like, I really want to make it my mission to create spaces for Black people to feel safe to be themselves. Yeah. And themselves in whatever, like, that looks like. And I was like, there's, like, so many, like, the more I researched, like, in high school, and I was like, okay, like, if I'm really gonna pursue this, like, I need to know, like, my stuff. I need to know, like, what has, like, the chapter done, in the area, abroad, anything, because Delta is a global organization. I want to know, and the more I learn, like, all of their programs with Habitat for Humanity, I was just so interested and so fascinated by all of their work to help our people, and just, like, leaders that, like, we know and love, that we talk about, like, in the Black community, were usually, like, D9. Like, some of our pillars of the community were D9, and I was like, if I want to go D9, this is the only org that, me personally, I would just say, me personally, like, this is really, like, what I want. Like, I truly did, like, fall in love with service and, like, what they were doing, and just wanted to be like them. And I was like, okay, like, this is really what I want. I got to USF. Actually, before I applied to USF, I was on that page talking about, okay, well, what's the Greek life look like? Like, do they have deltas? Like, what's going on? And finding out all of the service that our chapter, like, Tao has done in the past, whether that's working with Glide Church in the Fillmore, handing out food and, like, bag lunches to the homeless and serving them on Sundays, to Project Hand, to community gardens, stuff around the city. Just truly, like, a legacy of service. I was like, oh, yes, this is something that I want to pursue in, like, the best way possible. Yeah, and I'm so thankful for my line sisters. Like, they are my rock. I love them so much. And it couldn't have come together any better. Nice. Like, it couldn't have come together, like, any better. And we do service pretty much on a monthly basis now. We do events on campus, whether they're, like, fun to raise money or to raise awareness, or we do a lot of, like, donation drives. We'll be having a May week, stay tuned. Like, events throughout the week, the first week of May. Really just everything. I just fell in love with the chapter and fell in love with getting to know, like, my line sisters and the entire process. It's been a really beautiful experience. Hard work, but yeah, a beautiful experience. Yeah,
I'm glad to hear you've been loving it, and just to, hear you talk about it. Sound like you really, like, in the right spot for you. So yeah. I'm glad to hear that. And speaking about, like, bringing or, like, kind of combining it with, like, the context of us being at USF, Saffy, I think we make up a whopping, like, I say 12% of our school, Black folk. Generously, maybe.
That seems real generous.
Generously, I feel. All right, let's call it about 10.
Okay.
We make about 10% of our population. So I'm just wondering, how has, like, your experience been as a part of a D9 organization and trying to, like, bring that culture back to campus, like, with all our, you just had the yard show and all that, and just trying to, like, really, like, keep the Black, not only just the D9, but, like, the Black presence in general on campus strong. Like, how's it been being on the front lines of that?
I think it's been really good, and I think joining, like, Delta in the Bay has been such a wonderful experience with connecting with other Black people in the Bay. We had been to SF State for a few events before, but just, like, really not learning, but truly connecting on a deeper level with other like current black students in the Bay. I talk with more often now, like, you know, like for us, like our chapter is solely based at USF, but there are other chapters on the D9 on campus right now who are both SF State and like USF, or they're SF State, they're USF, and they're Berkeley, or, you know, they're citywide. They can pull from anywhere. They can pull from Sonoma State. They can pull from, you know, any of like the local surrounding colleges. And I just think it makes us feel less, I'll say, isolated as black people, depending on your field and, you know, where you work. Sometimes being black in the city can be really isolating. Like, you know, like SF is known for its diversity, but it is not known for its black people. Even when the Fillmore was at its height, it was 14%. Like, you know, it's been really good to just connect with black students in the Bay. But even the San Francisco, like the black community in San Francisco, like, period, like they kind of look at you different, like, oh, like you're D9, like, oh, you go to USF. Even just us going to USF, like, oh, like that school on the hill with the church, like, you know, there's a certain level of like respect, because they see like a lot of the times we interact with them, we're giving back, we're on class assignment, like we were with Sears, like, you know, we were doing things, we were very active in the community. And I feel like it helps us connect with like black San Francisco, because I mean, they always love to say that black San Francisco is like, you know, like gone or it's dwindling, but I mean, it's still here. Like, you know, like we can still talk to a lot of these people. There are still a lot of the places that we frequent that are the same. First Fridays, like, you know, we see there are certain moments.
That's where the culture is.
We go over to Oakland really quickly. Like, you know, we were just in Oakland maybe a month ago for the Black College Expo. Tons of black people. Like, it's in the surrounding Bay. Like, sometimes there'll be times in San Francisco where you see less black people, but I just feel like overall, like the Bay is still black. Like, you know, you just have to maybe make a more conscious effort to really find those spaces.
You definitely do have to seek your community out,
but
here.
It's there.
Yeah, facts. And then, yeah, so like that was because you answered a question that I didn't get to ask you formally. It's just, you know, asking about some of the work that y'all was doing. But yeah, if you got any like specific, I would say like on the like goals or any like outlook for the coming years, in terms of, you know, just building your sorority, building your guys' impact on campus, or, you know, things that you're trying to like get involved in or branch out into. Got any like outlook for the next couple of years?
Next couple of years, I think it's just to remain active in the community. I have truly really enjoyed, and we have all really enjoyed, the service that we've done in the community. Whether that's Glide, whether that's, you know, like going over to Oakland, really enjoyed the service to the community and just continuing with that, building stronger relationships with the community. Sometimes I feel like USF can be a little isolating. Like, you could spend the entire day on campus and like not go into the city, but the more you go into the city, the more you feel immersed in like the culture. And I think that SF has a beautiful culture of black life, and like anywhere in the Fillmore, Hunters View, Bay Point, you know, the areas that, you know, black people were pushed out to, you know, I just feel like our goals are just to have really good relationships, like maintain, excuse me, that's what I'm trying to say. Maintain the relationships that we've built. You know, that's really like our goal. Like, our goal is service, you know, connecting the San Francisco black community, you know, through events, and even the USF black community, you know, a dedication to really unifying our black community, because I think a lot of us can be separated at times. And, you know, we're getting to the point where all black people don't know each other, which is great.
To but have like black background characters is a great feeling.
It's a great problem to have. It's a great feeling. But yeah, like, we want to uplift, you know, the black women on campus. And I think a lot of that work has been done and is continuing to be done, with, you know, the D9 sororities, like, as a whole, and Sister Connection. Like, we now have more groups that are, you know, like non-Greek and Greek related. But overall, just really making USF a stronger community as well as the greater San Francisco area.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Sound like some great
We're
goals,
excited.
Saffy.
We have a lot of events planned for the end of the semester and for next year as well. And we really like to connect like SF State with us some more, like, because they're not far.
Yeah.
And, you know, we deal with a lot of the same issues and concerns as far as education, what being Black looks like at PWIs. So excited to build that too.
Yeah. All right. Sound you got some great goals on the list. Sound like you got a clear cut, action path going forward. No, definitely gonna wish you the best of luck. And wish you the best of luck in all of these, finishing up classes, finishing up your season, finishing up, your time here.
Thank you.
So definitely just want to say, one, thank you for having this conversation with me. It's like one of the longest ones I done did yet. So it's going to be, it's either going to be some editing or it's going to be a long episode. So I just want to say, thank you. And yeah, like I really do appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you. Yeah, Thank you for inviting me.
It's no problem. Troof. It is no problem, anytime for real, So with that being said though, you got anything you want to say to the people?
Literally stream every episode, because when I tell you like all of the thought, like the intricate process that you be going through with some of these episodes, you be saying some things that I don't even be thinking about. I be thank you. Dang, like Justin, he really be putting people on. Like,
thank you.
We got to get you a radio show.
Hey man, I feel like that would be a good goal to strive to. But I feel like it's possible. It's definitely attainable.
I definitely think so. Yeah, stream every episode. Like Justin, I literally can't thank you enough. Like I don't know. We were talking about before we came on. Like I remember that first episode. Like. In the hall, like, it was like, all right, everybody, like, I'm about to film the first episode. We're like, okay, like, 10 walls and 30 people, it's 15 rooms, Justin in the middle. I'm like, in my room, I'm like, let me see if I can hear him. Like, what is he talking about today? Like, it's always going to be something. And just being amazed by your work.
Thank you. I really do appreciate that, man. Yes. It feels great to be affirmed. So definitely, you're definitely a valued part of this whole experience that is building it up, kind of getting a little bit more steam behind it. So I'm grateful to have one of these episodes dedicated to Saffy, Sociology, Sports, and Sorority. And with that being said, that's another episode of Troof to Power. Thanks for watching.
See ya.